Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Kevin Mireles, and I'm going to talk to you today about the MVR framework, my minimum viable replacement framework. But first, let's start off with what percentage of modernizations fail? Is it 20%, 50%, or 80%? It's not 20%, it's not 50%, it's 80%. What you see is most of these modernizations projects fail. Why? Really no different than marriages. The expectations don't equal reality, right? People start off thinking it's going to be a walk in the park. They call it green like this watermelon. And then they suddenly discover, oops, we've got to climb that mountain and we have no idea how to get through to the other side. Then you discover the real project status, right? It may have been green on the outside, but the full time it was red on the inside. Next comes the blame storming, the most important part of any project. The anger, the yelling, the frustration. Oops. And now you need to delay the retirement. You need to rework the architecture. You need to apologize in sales and customers for missing key features. You need to explain why you need more money and time to your boss or the board, or all of the above. And maybe you need to find a new job. So why? Well, again, expectations don't match reality. So you thought it was going to be easy, but it's 2 to 3 times as hard as expected. Thought it could be very predictable. But low predictability, that's the reality. You'd ignore the laggards and edge cases, right? That's just bloat. But it turns out laggards are your largest customers and edge cases are critical to get people to migrate. Oh, and the MVP model, right? Everybody's got an MVP. Everything's an MVP. But it guarantees disaster when you're migrating, folks. Oh, and you can measure progress based on quantity of code, tasks, and features completed, right? Story points. What's our burn down charts look like? Surprise, quantity is the wrong metric for measuring progress. Let's dive into this. So what qualification do I have? Well, I burned through $20 million on a modernization project. In fact, it's part of a larger $200-300 million portfolio modernization, and everybody struggled with the same exact problems. Let's dive in. First thing is organizations expect predictability and innovation when they're inversely correlated. What do you mean about that, right? So you have here in this bottom left-hand quadrant, low innovation, high predictability, right? That's, you know exactly what you're doing. Pretty straightforward. Over here is high innovation, low predictability. Well, when you're doing modernizations, when you're replacing legacy systems that have been around for a decade or more, which quadrant does this belong into? Well, first, let's start with some math. That'll help explain the issue. So, right, certainty times complexity equals predictability. That's basic probability. So let's do some math here. Probability prop quiz. So we have this Gantt chart. And you're 90% confident that you can get each task done. You got 20 tasks. What's the overall probability at the end of 20? Is it 90% or is it 12%? Aha! Surprise. Why is it? I have a degree in Latin American studies and I'm going to explain basic probability to engineers. I don't get this. But all the same is, that's the math. And so if you take one thing away and one thing away only, is that the ability to forecast the future decays exponentially, making it impossible to accurately predict outcomes for projects that combine both uncertainty and complexity, right? If you're 100% certainty, it doesn't matter how many variables, how many tasks you have, you're 100%. But once you start dropping down, you see how quickly you get to 0% probability. So like 70% certainty, like how often do you even have that? So, right, you can't predict. And it's like this house or this old building, we're going to renovate it, right? God knows what's in there. And by the way, the people who built it, they've moved on, they've retired, maybe they died, they ate too much bacon, who knows? So our crystal ball is very cloudy, right? We've got this iceberg, you can see 20% of it, 80% you can't. But yet we're tempted to declare it's green. We'll be done with this in 9 months, or that's what the boss says. But in reality, what you're starting out with is a watermelon, green on the outside, and it's red. It's blood red from the beginning. So really, maybe it's 29 months, but who knows? And the other piece is laggards are considered losers, but in reality, they are your largest customers with their own customized solutions. Right? They've got this customized pickup. It may be old, but it's customized just for them. And they're rarely willing to trade it in for a skateboard, a bike, or a truck that isn't specifically customized for them, right? They want what they are used to. They've built systems around it. They expect you to deliver what they already have, just in a new and upgraded form. And the MVP model focuses on the 80% of the customers, not the 1% that drive your risk, cost, and complexity, right? Here's the 80%. They all look more or less alike. Ooh, but the 1% doesn't look anything like that. Ooh, even bigger. Oof. Like, these are the folks. They drive the majority of your business. This is the 1%. So good luck getting the elephant, giraffe, rhino, and hippo to fit in the clothes designed for people, right? The 1% are different. They have different requirements, different scalability requirements. This is where all of your complexity is. So what happens is you define your architecture, your plans around these folks down here, and then when you get to these last few, boom, everything blows up. But the minimum viable replacement model is designed to help you not just deal with these early innovators, early adopters, the MVP folks are. It's designed to help you get everywhere from the early innovators to your hyper laggards, who are your largest, most complex customers, right? It's a sum total of all the MVPs required to meet all customer needs required to transition existing customers and retire a current system, right? So you have these different segments. You have these simplest and smallest, and they need just this piece of work. So how do you slice that? And then the next, and the next, and the next, so on and so forth, till you get here to your largest, plus what's required to migrate them. So, right? And then, each of these largest customers may need to be treated as their own MVP, NVR, right? They're their own segment. Right, the minimum viable replacement framework helps you take you through that process. It also recognizes you're dealing with enterprise IT work where 80% of the work is undefined. It's invisible, so it's impossible to know exact requirements. But instead of walking blindly into that minefield like the typical approach does, the MVR 5-step framework helps you identify and mitigate risks early on. So you start with identify the 1% of the customers and scenarios that drive 80% of your risk early instead of at the end of the project, what most people do. We then take you through dividing the capabilities into the easy 20% that meet the needs of the 99% and the difficult required for the 1% that drive 20 to 60% of impact. Then you assess and balance the desire to deliver new capabilities for new and existing customers that need to retire existing systems. We help you develop the plans and architecture that enables delivering 20% sooner while budgeting and architecting for the 80% of the work required for the 1%. And then we say, yep, so you iterate, because you're never going to get this right in the beginning, right? You're experimenting, you're discovering. So along with that, we have the MVR risk identification, mitigation, communication tool to enable you to more safely and proactively identify and communicate risk. So today, right, delivering bad news can be hard. Teams lack experience to identify common risks. If you haven't done this before, you don't know where they are. It's difficult to determine the actual size or status of the project. Is it green or is it red? And there's no standards for identifying, tracking, communicating risks. So using the tool, you can de-risk delivering bad news. You can identify and mitigate common risks. You can help assess confidence regarding estimated scope, size, timelines, and value. Provide common standards for identifying, tracking, and communicating risks. So, what we give you is these questions, and then you can select different options. Depending on how you select, they turn it green, yellow, or red. So you can quickly get a quick sense of, where your risks are. Not only from just can you execute as delivered, but will customers adopt and will you get the value from it? So, right, does it match or exceed current capabilities of existing systems? That's a key thing that everybody overlooks. They think they can take 80% out and get 100% of the customers to migrate. That's just not the way it works. So it helps you understand what are those value risks as well. So instead of backloading risks and delivering disasters, the MVR framework helps you minimize surprise and maximize success. Where the traditional models lead to failure, we help you deliver quick wins, better estimate project actual size, design and architect systems that serve the needs of the smallest and largest. And here's what people say. I've had the opportunity to lead at least 3 product replacement efforts, and boy, I wish I was aware of the advice I'm sharing below when I did those, right? That was from an article that somebody wrote about my minimum viable replacement framework. Right? Fantastic. The 2 of us on my team for your talk are feverishly messaging the whole time how valuable and relevant your content is. People love it. So don't be Charlie Brown trying to kick the football and making the same mistakes over and over again. Embrace the MVR so this can be you instead of Charlie Brown. All right, please reach out with any questions you have, and make sure you sign up for my webinars and reach out, and I will be happy to help you avoid millions in lost dollars and thousands of hours, and instead help you navigate the minefields for a successful modernization project. Thank you so much.